He's just hunting. Woods and Paz know the time limit. They know he has to push in. They're holding that cross. Woods maybe concerned about a... No, he's not watching this out there. Both dialed in here. As I say that, he dips off. Paz finds... Soldiers actually finds Paz, and Woods here is hunting. Woods goes down. Raptors!
Oh my god.
Today I'm bringing you a very special video. An interview with Raptors, the VRML Season 11 champions. This is a team I've had a long-standing relationship with, as I had the privilege of watching them grow from the very beginning, and I even casted their first scrimcast, which you can find in the archives if you dig around. To say they've come a long way is the understatement of the century. Given that this is only their second season, I figured those of you who are interested in building a team and competing would like to hear just how they did it. This interview is filled with spicy little gems that can benefit players of all skill levels, and provides insight into what it takes to build a championship caliber team. So without further ado, let's get into the interview. And we're here with the Raptors, fresh off of their win, Season 11 champions. This is the first time a non-beginners or non-Globochem team has ever won a championship, and wow, history was made. Won the game, won 3-0 in a best of 5 too, something to truly be proud of. And I wanted to bring all of you guys on so we could get some sense of what it takes to reach that level in this game. So before we go any further, why don't you guys just introduce yourselves, starting with Distorted.
I'm Distorted. I'm the captain of Raptors. Yeah. Rypick, you want to go?
My name's Rypick. I joined Raptors in Season 11. Probably the newest member to the team, and also becoming known as the entry fragger for the team.
Soldiers, you want to take it?
Hello, my name is FG_Soldiers, and I co-founded Raptors, and I'm also an entry fragger.
Yeah, you can go, Tiger.
Okay. Hi, I'm Tiger Striker 5. I am the LMG of the group. Mostly do pre-fires and all that, so.
And I'll finish this off. I'm Marksman. I think most people know my name, and I specialize in our long distance, and then also kind of our in-game leader, where I'm making constant call-outs and trying to keep everybody informed, because I'm usually not around the front line, and so I can keep constant communication up. That's generally my role.
Right on. So just getting right into it, I know a lot of people, especially newer players, are anxious to hear about where the Raptors came from and how you guys reached this high place in the league. So I guess my first question here is, what's the story behind how the team was formed?
All right, can I start on, guys? Yep. Yeah. All right, so we got very, very lucky starting out this team. There was a pandemic going on, and then this Quest release came out. So we kind of hit the jackpot, honestly, with all this new talent coming in and all these new players just filling in the game. So I really had a ton to look out for, and the league was just exploding at this point. So I was just out there looking for players. I had a little bit of a Pavlov background, so I knew how the competitive side of VR games worked. And I met Soldiers trying out for a different team, Red Diamonds, right? And then him and I were like, okay, some of this management, it's not taking it to the level that we want to take it to. We want to compete all the time. We want to really put ourselves out there. So Soldiers, what was your perspective on the starter Raptors?
We were trying out for a team that we didn't like. We didn't like the way the leadership was going there. So we kind of just said to each other, how about we just make our own team and shape it to what we want it to be.
Right on. So you guys mentioned that you were facing a management on a team you're trying out for you didn't particularly like. So obviously you had to go from 0 to 1. And how did you guys make your first roster decisions building that team?
Ooh, that's tough. One of my favorite stories on how we got one of our members was VR Marksman. So we've seen him around in comp lobbies, right? So me and Soldiers would play with him for a while. Just shoot the shit, talk with him, have some laughs, and then we saw him in a scrim against Blackwatch. We're like, wow, this guy's doing really, really well. We should get him. We should try to get him. And so what we had to do, first we had to make sure we won the scrim, right? And then we had to reach out to him and say, hey, you did a fantastic job tonight. We really liked what we saw. would you consider hopping over and playing with us? And then you do a couple scrims with them, you see if they're a good fit, and if they are, then you join them.
Yeah, that was kind of a different situation because I was prospecting for Blackwatch and playing for them and just trying to, it was like my first scrim, just trying stuff out. And I know Distorted reached out to me before the scrim, and I was like, "Well, I'm playing with Blackwatch tonight." And he's like, "Well, actually, we're scrimming them, so you'll be playing against us." So it's kind of different, but from there, at least playing against them, you kind of get to see, you can meet up with them face to face on the field. So it's a little different from pulling somebody in and working with them on your team. It's a little different dynamic for trying out. So I think that it was a benefit because on the field they'd see, yeah, this guy killed me from this spot. It was a nice angle, and he was playing it really well. And it kind of gives you a better idea of how they play instead of just seeing their KD at the end of the match or um, yeah, just seeing how they communicate. So there's a little different outlook on my tryout, anyways.
And would you say
Right.
that's kind of like your standard model of how you guys are evaluating people? Because I know that's another, when I was building a team, it was a huge challenge of like, how do you figure out a player is good or not? And everybody kind of defaults to KDRs. So, what are you guys looking for exactly when you're looking for a recruit?
Yeah, can I take over?
Yeah. You.
So the main thing was we were just seeing how well that player would gel together with the team. So it's not necessarily how well you outperform like your kill death, but more like how your call outs are. What are your other contributions other than just kills?
Right.
And for your later decisions, like Rypig mentioned that he's one of the last Raptors to show up, like, when you're trying to fill a spot after you already had a somewhat developed roster, what would compel you to pick up somebody like Rypig?
You want to see how they take things when they go wrong. If something goes wrong and their personality just collapses and they start throwing out blame everywhere, that is not the kind of player you want. You want to look for the solid ones who will take their own blame, right? They'll be like, okay, yeah, that was on me. That was my bad, guys. And then you want to see how quickly can they move on.
Nice. And then for somebody like, let's say, I know Tiger, you're like me, you're an LMG specialist, really. How do you incorporate somebody like that into your plans? Because obviously you got players who are good on the rifle, good on marksman or whatever, but people tend to specialize. How do you send people down the right avenues?
Yeah, I think we have common positions that we like to play, kind of, and that's how we choose our strats. Where we don't say, "Hey, you're playing this position, and that's the only one you can play." Like it's really dynamic. At least in even in the match, we don't really predetermine things, and so we just say, "I'm going to watch this angle because I like this and it's solid," and we kind of pick our own spots and then make adjustments after that. So for like an LMG player, we'll let them choose their spot if they want to have a pre-fire line. They can do that. And if we're weak on one side, then we might adjust that and say, hey, instead of that angle, pre-fire a different angle, and then watch the right side of the map or lane 4 or something. But along that same line, we have a couple different dynamics where we have a left-handed player in Messino, and so we take that into account because he can hold a left-handed angle and he does it really well. But for me playing that angle, I'd be half exposed, and it's usually not as strong. And so we all have our own little quirks and our own benefits that we add to the team, depending on what utility we want or what loadouts we bring, or even how we play the game, left-handed, right-handed, or the speed. Like Rypic and Soldiers got a little bit of speed with them and being able to hit corners fast, and so that's why they're usually in the front getting kills.
And kind of on the pathway to figuring out how you guys played well together, what were some big early obstacles that you guys had to deal with?
I'll go ahead. Some of the obstacles that we had to deal with is our preparation. Earlier in the season, even before I was able to play with the team, I think we lacked preparation for the matches. Not looking forward in the future enough to determine what areas were played by each team. Whether it's season 11, season 10, as we grew through the season and started to determine how were we going to turn this around early in the season with the first couple losses that we faced, we determined that we needed to take a little more focus in not necessarily the offense of the teams, maybe a point of, if they're going to push us or if they're going to play a little bit slower, and understand their play style in that aspect, but not necessarily where they were pushing from. It was more about the defense with any team. And if they were repetitive in their defense, it became easier to understand and conquer that defensive route. And once we started to do that and understand that, and people took the time to look at it and adjust to it and practice it in scrims, then we were able to flow more consistently and understand and be less stressed, I think, really, in each match going into it. We have an idea of where they play, and now we know how to attack, and we're not as stressed out to be trying to figure out what corner everybody's sitting in, especially if three seasons back they're still playing the same spot. It becomes really easy at that point for us to move forward and progress, and I think that's what led us to a solid victory and our ultimate fame throughout the season.
Yeah, and I'd have to say that's definitely something that Rye brought to the team once we picked him up, because going into the season, yeah, we were kind of like an off the cuff, just jump into a match and see how things went. Not much preparation as far as knowing. We just have general ideas about the team from playing them in scrims and watching some casts. But when Rye joined, he really put an effort in kind of put an effort for us to build a database of just this is common spots and this is stuff that people use, or these are common paths they play on Marsoc, and we just prep for that. And I think that's definitely what helped us be successful through the season and then also through the finals.
I would also like to add that we also really improved on learning how to move on, like in the tent, especially like if something goes wrong the previous round, to adapt to that and take it from there with a good mindset.
Yeah, I think you'd see like there's several situations, especially on quarantine, where we'd be down 3-0 or 3-1 from a bad cap, and I know that can kind of wreck teams sometimes. But we finished the season with a 100% win rate on quarantine, and that just shows that we came back from those deficits and were able to kind of get our mind out of the negativity and just focus on what we need to do and how to react. So yeah, that is something that I think we did better this season and even in the late season.
Yeah, I will say that that's something special. It's really something you can't teach people either, is learning how to get out of tilt. You either have it or you don't, and that's really a team dynamic you can't predict. So the fact that you guys have that is something special. On the same sort of note, do you guys prioritize defensive or offensive planning, and how do you guys split that up?
Ooh, okay. So when we're looking, we have a privilege that not many bronze or silver teams have, where we can look at other teams and see what they do in their we can see what they do in their defenses. So I think we're pretty balanced in our defensive offensive planning. It's just the defensive planning comes after we've already been in the round, and it's in the tent. It's the tent time. We're focused on okay, this is what this team has done the past 2 rounds. They've either rushed or they've taken it slow. So what positions can we play on defense? But for offense, we can look ahead and see where they've played in the past, and then we can go in the tent and we can mark their spots on the board. And I remember Rypick was saying, these are their spots, let's go pre-fire them. That's what he was saying in finals against beginners. These are their spots, go pre-fire them. And that worked out really well for our offensive, but our defensive had to be more dynamic for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, in general, have you guys found it harder to plan on offense?
No, I think for offense, like to sort of saying, we mark those spots, and then we just have a general outline where like 3 on one side, 2 on the other. And we usually pair up with people that we know. So I'll run with either Rypick or Messino, just because we work well together. And then 3 go on the other side, and then from there you have that responsibility to clear those spots. And we don't have a certain person that clears them. It's just when you get to them, if you can see them, go ahead and clear those, and then keep moving. So we kind of rely on each other to a point where like you kind of trust them. If they're on the west side, you let them do their thing, make call outs if you see people, but they're kind of controlling that front line and advancing on into that defense. So that's our Marsoc's kind of like on the cuff, just clear those spots and see what happens.
Yeah, that's a pattern I've personally experienced and seen all across the league just because offense is so dynamic, like you said. And genuinely, it feels like a weakness when teams try to plan too hard on offense because things just change too rapidly. On defense, you can rotate, you can think about what happens when you lose somebody, but it's much harder to deal with that on offense.
Going back to that, I will say on our attacks this season, especially in the late season, we kind of developed some strats based around smoke, and so smoke causes a ton of confusion, and especially on certain objectives. It doesn't work well on every objective, but we can take like bazaar key out objective. If you can smoke out the whole bazaar in the front, get 6 smokes in there, people can't see you, and so they'll start running out. And even if you're not pushing, you'll be able to get a couple picks going into that. Um, and so that's something that, yeah, we will plan that ahead of time. We'll say, we'll just throw smokes and we'll just wait, hold your lines, or throw smokes. And if we're down to two Volk left, just go ahead and push in. And so that's something that we've kind of adapted, trying to use more utility since coming from season 10, we didn't have smokes. We weren't used to that. So we're trying to add that back into our regular strats.
I was going to say, you guys came into the league when smokes weren't even allowed. That must have been a real adjustment for you. Although, right pick, I know you've been around long enough that that wasn't a new thing for you. But yeah, for these new players, not having smokes, that was just the normal way of doing things. And it's a whole new dimension.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I'm only this is my 3rd season, and I've played with Lords of War on season 9. Came from the rookie boot camp there. Yeah, so we had to come up with Bazaar was our main starter point when we started to actually use utility and throw it out on the Intel maps and see, if we were to able to cover these certain areas, what was it going to do to the defense? And that came with looking at the defense prior and seeing where they played. That way we could understand where we need to place the smokes to block their vision. And once that is done, then they have to rotate because they cannot see objective or they'll start to panic. And so once everybody's able to learn that and comprehend that, I mean, it took, I don't know, probably half the season before everybody could believe it. But once everybody was on board and trusted the idea and started to see it, especially being streamed this season, almost every single game helped us tremendously. We were able to after every stream or game that we had, we went back and spent an hour at least rewatching the stream and understanding what we did wrong or needed to improve on. How one person got behind us or what did my nade or the flashbang or smoke actually cause and disrupt the enemy team. Was it useful? Was it not? So once we started to do that and focus on that, we were actually able to quite improve and be, again, less stressed in the matches because we understood what was going to happen in each scenario that we caused.
Glad you guys brought that up because this is something I think new players need to hear in particular. So just to be clear, you view getting casted as a net positive.
Absolutely. Because we're playing a match, and we're seeing one thing out of my own field of view, or Tigers, or Marksman's, or Feds, anybody's. All we're seeing is what we're seeing, right? As a person, and to be able to see and rewatch a cast of us playing, greatly helps us. We're not worried about everybody else being able to see it. Because they're not necessarily looking at how we're looking at the match. They're looking, of like, okay, they played here, they played there. While we're looking at like, okay, did we effectively attack this objective? Did we effectively defend it? What could we do better, utility-wise or position-wise, to further our defense and our attack percentage? The hardest thing in Onward right now is to attack an objective. You're behind the cuff right off the get. So if you can understand how to attack an objective and be less stressed in that situation, whether you're giving information to the other teams in the league just because you're casted, it really doesn't matter. If you can improve yourself and other teams are improving, it's just going to make the league better and more competitive. Everybody's going to train that much harder for it. but definitely it is 100% a positive to be streamed in order to rewatch that back and understand your mistakes and be able to take the corrective action to proceed with that and further your team along.
Yeah, and I think along the same line as that is if you're afraid of getting casted because your strats or like your defense positions would be known, then you're being too predictable. It doesn't have you don't have to be casted in order for that to be known. Like if you can get that out in scrims and just playing matches against people, if you play them several times, they'll start to learn those spots and so I
Right.
think being flexible on defense is the critical part. Marsoc is usually more off the cuff and less predictable, so that side of a cast, I don't think there's much benefit unless you have coordinated attacks, or you have a flanker that's consistently going the same route. Um, that could point to something. But from the Volk side, I think if everybody has 2 or 3 positions that they can play, and you can change those up every match or every other match depending on the objective, I think that adds a lot of flexibility to your team, but then also a lot of uncertainty for other teams. Because if they're doing that research, they'll pull up an objective and say, "Hey, this guy's used 3 different spots, so we can't definitively say he's in one or the other." So it kind of puts some uncertainty into their strat or into their attack.
Right. You should go back and watch your cast the same way an enemy team would watch your cast. You need to look for your own weaknesses and make sure they're not there because another team will watch that and they will see that and they will come in and exploit that. So you have to stop that from being exploited, and it's just how competitive works. How competition works. That's how I should have framed that.
Yeah. Well, either way, just fantastic advice. Thank you guys for putting that out there because I know a lot of newer players get sort of weird about getting casted. They're worried about their secret sauce going out in public, but I think you guys are absolutely right. It's more valuable as a self-improvement exercise to just have that cast. And when it comes to getting casted, it's a pretty stressful experience, especially if you're not used to it. So how, over time, have you guys learned to cope with that stress of getting casted?
So I think I'm going to take this one again. So I become the hype master for our team. I think everybody would agree.
That's a good title. Yeah.
So you may not say it in Discord or anywhere else, but if you sat in the tent with me or anything like, I'm pretty much 100%. And if my attitude's down, it could definitely adjust the team outcome. But as long as my hype status is up there, the team's flowing. We're not stressed at all. We understand what to do. And, it may be a bunch of rambling at one point in time, but as long as everybody else is up there freaking getting ready to go and hyped out with me, then we're good. I mean, there's a bunch of emotes out there, that a hypometer or whatnot you want to call it, that gets spammed through the Discord. But it's definitely all about the attitude that you carry into it, right? I mean, we're streamed, like I said, almost every game this season, and then into the finals, semifinals, round robin. I mean, those are, the stress doesn't get easier as you go on. Especially when you're going up with beginners, who've been champions multiple times, returning champions, and we're coming in as some new team, and to be able just to have a good time and keep the hype up, whether it's soldiers over there smacking down some Skittles or whatnot, if I'm rambling sentences you can't even understand if you're over my cast, as long as we're keeping that energy high, I mean, we're just flowing. Everybody's attitude's up. We're just hitting shots, and it just goes throughout the team. So it's definitely about your attitude. And if you can find a way to just distance yourself from the stressful situation and still focus on the objective and have a great time, I mean, you're going to hit your shots. You're not worried about missing them, no matter what team you're going up against. So just, if we could say anything, I mean, just keep your attitude high, enjoy the game, and just get rid of the stress. And you'll do fantastic in any situation.
And
Yeah,
just,
and
oh, sorry, go ahead,
going
Marksman.
going into that finals match, there's a lot of pressure. We had never played beginners before, and it was all new to us. So we had done our research, but we still didn't know, how is it going to feel when we're in defense. Like, I know they wait till close to the end of the round to do their pushes, and then they're coordinated. How is that going to feel? And kind of going into it, we all had that pressure, but we were all also really content with second place. We're like, guys, we did Like we kicked butt this season, and if whatever happens, it happens. That kind of took some of the pressure off. Where, yeah, if we got second, so be it. But yeah, we're gonna shoot for first. But it wasn't like an all or nothing match. So that definitely took some off of it. And then once Subway was done and Soldiers managed to pull that off last round, getting the win on Subway, that kind of took our hype through the roof. And we're like, guys, we got this. We took one map, we can take two, we can take three. We can do it. So it definitely helps a little bit with the performance in game. You know, when you are doing good, you can keep that stress level down. But still, in a 3-3 situation on a map, there's some stress, and obviously Soldier was able to perform on that one.
Yeah, that was a historic clutch, no doubt about it.
Mhm.
Now, just dealing with stress, I want to hear individual answers from each of you because this is, in my experience, a highly individualized question. What do you guys do both before and after a match? Everybody seems to have some kind of routine, so for each one of you, what is that?
Soldiers start. Soldiers start.
I think everyone on Raptors and maybe a couple other people know that I like to down bags of Skittles before matches.
Bags.
What size bags are we talking about here, Soldiers? Are we talking about the bags you buy just like right at the grocery store checkout, or are we talking about the big bags?
The big bags.
Wow.
Yeah, he takes handfuls of them. But I mean, what do you else do, Soldiers? Like, I mean, I know you in particular. You don't like to do a ton right before a match, as far as in game. Is that right?
What?
Like in game, right before a match, you're usually the one that's saying you just want to be chill. Usually, try not to get in comp lobbies and get too stressed out or too gun ho on those. Usually,
Yeah,
we do like
usually I
a shooting range.
just hop into a shooting range for like 20 minutes just to like warm up the aim a little bit, but that's all you need. You don't really need to hop into a competitive lobby and get all worked up right before a match.
Yeah, say for me, usually I'll about 30 minutes before a match, I'll have a small beer just to take the edge off. I homebrew, so I have a bunch at the house, so I'll do that before a match, and then yeah, just be chilling a shooting range, running through the shoot house a couple times, taking the 12x out, and just getting steady long shots, practice some grenade throws, just some routine warm up, little routine there, just to make sure everything's flowing, and then go right from there to the match.
Yeah, for
the shooting
me,
range.
oh,
Who's going?
I was
Tiger?
gonna go.
Yeah, Tiger,
I was
good.
gonna,
Oh,
I
you
was
go,
gonna
Tiger.
go.
You go. You go.
I'm pretty opposite from everybody else. I like to go in an hour early before, and I like to get some pre-warm up comp lobbies in. For me, I always take a second before I get like fully warmed up. So I get in an hour early before everybody else, and kind of get into a comp lobby and just warm up with that. Sometimes I play music like 10 minutes before a game or scrim. I'll like play music in my some hype music up, just get me going. And then post game, either I don't know. I do a bunch of different things for post game, but before games, I always like to do hour early warm up and play music beforehand.
Right. I think I personally would not take my advice on the good pregame because when I'm in the my first maps are always a little shaky. I'm missing my shots, but I once heard that physical response for excitement and nervousness are the same. If you can switch that if you can flick that switch in your mind that you're not nervous, you're excited and you're hyped up and you're ready to go, and that's what Right Pick really helps us do. Right Pick's really in there pumping us up, If you can flick that switch and you say, "No, I'm excited for this match. I'm not afraid. I'm ready. I'm excited. I'm good to go." Then you'll probably be good to go. It's a mental thing.
As far as myself goes, I mean, clearly, I'm a red wine kind of drinker, but I mean, I definitely have probably a glass before a game. Same instance as the beer for marksman, and I mean, I think we're the only two able to drink on the team. But
Nah, Fed.
well, Fed's not here, so but it definitely takes the edge off. Just relax a little bit. And then again, we're all in a shooting range at least 20 minutes beforehand, either talking just random stuff, whether we found out something new about the game, whether it's, smoke related or how we can handle our gun versus utility. And we're really not talking about the match too much coming into it 30 minutes beforehand. We're just kind of chilling, having a good time. Like multiple people said that we're all in shooting range. Just warming up, making sure everything's working as intended, and pretty much just waiting to go at that point. But yeah, definitely not talking about the team. Just kind of chilling.
Yeah,
Nice.
and then a common after match thing that we do is if we do get casted, usually we take a 30-minute, 45-minute break after the match, and then start up a rewatch of it. And so we'll get whoever can get together about usually about 11 o'clock or 10:30, 11 o'clock. Get them together and just while it's fresh, just go through it and take notes of what we did right, what we did wrong, write up an eval, um, and just hang out together again after that match, whether it was good or bad. It's important to do it either way, and so we choose to do that just the night of the match usually afterwards.
I've only got a couple more questions here, but what advice do you have for new players who want to follow in your footsteps?
So one thing, clearly we're all different ages on this team. And I'm almost double the age of some. So, uh, it's not about the age really. It's about finding the people you mesh well with. I'm not gonna lie, Soldiers and I, we get in an argument here and there. I mean, you know, it could be daily, it could not be. But the thing is how you're gonna be able to handle it and get past that. The next day, we're fine, or the next round we're fine. Whether we had a bickering moment or not, the age difference, it's gonna happen. It's just how are you gonna be able to adjust and overcome that, and if you can do that, because Onward is a vast variety of ages. So as long as you can mesh together is probably the biggest thing with your team, and understanding like everybody's individual personalities, and being able to work with that and just have a good time. Honestly, you're playing a video game, just have a good time. If you're going to have a good time, you're going to mesh well, and win or lose. There's no reason to give it up after one season or one loss. There's no reason to quit the team for it. It's always an improvement, win or lose. We lost right off the get this season multiple times, and not even like close losses. We got murdered, but it's just like, how do you handle that? So I guess the biggest advice out of here is just enjoy the game and find people you mesh well with, and don't take anything to heart, because through life everybody's gonna nitpick you. I'm an engineer, so if I design something wrong, I'm gonna get my ass beat for it all the time. But it's like, how do you brush that off and be able to take it and be like, well, it's just a punch, but it's not gonna hurt you. So just enjoy the game, have a good time, and shake it off if somebody throws something negative at you. All right, it's just the internet. Just find a team that you mesh well with, and stick with it, and it'll work out in the end.
Yeah, I think I'd have to second that with with our team, we have a really good dynamic in there. Um, and so I think that helps because when you're playing 10, 12 hours a week together, you gotta enjoy who you're with. You gotta enjoy who you're playing with, and enjoy the game with that. But as far as like in-game skill, I think I think a lot of it you can do half of it outside, half of it inside. The inside part's learning the maps and learning angles. That can be done by watching casts, looking at other people where they play. That can be done in free roams with the team, or just in scrims. All of that works. Like for me personally, I think pretty much the most of the season, or almost the whole season, I only played in one scrim a week and one match a week. I didn't do much in comp lobbies. I didn't do much outside of that just because my time wasn't available. Between that and between helping with modding, um, I was pretty much dumb. Like, yeah, that was all the time I had for Onward. And so I just used my time effectively. Playing in that scrim, we'd stay focused on it and try to use that. What do we want to try this week in our match? We'll try different Volk positions and see if that works in the scrim. And if it's successful, we'll go ahead and apply that to the match and see if it'll work on those teams.
Yeah.
So you don't have to have a ton of time. I wouldn't say like the time in game. You don't have to have 1,000 hours. I don't think any of us here have 1,000 hours, or uh, maybe soldiers, maybe a couple people. But,
I think Ryan does.
I might be close. I might be close. I
I know myself.
I put in some time, but I mean, I'm a dad and I got 2
Right.
kids, so I'm only able to play after 7 o'clock. Okay, so but I'm
Yeah, I don't think I'm there yet, but just having that quality time and the map knowledge I think is key. Once you get map knowledge, you can kind of adjust other players and what they're doing just based on, like, if you know where their spot is, if somebody calls them out, you can rotate to different parts of the map and get that spot just from understanding the map.
Yeah, some things that I would have to say is some teams, a lot of what they do is they just only strictly stay to Onward when they're on a team, at least for new teams. They don't ever like play with them with their teammates outside of the game, and that's something that me and like a bunch of our other guys did all the time. Like I remember me and Soldiers and Distorted always played games outside of Onward, just for like the fun of it and screwing around, not worrying about Onward. So I just think that's another thing that some new teams need to realize, that it's not always about Onward, and that those those kind of bonds could help the team grow and having better chemistry and trusting on your teammates and a bunch of other things. And so I would just say, yeah, enjoying the game of Onward is great, but also playing other games that will also make the bond better probably would be good for a new team.
Yeah, have fun with it. Make sure the people you're playing with, you enjoy. You guys can get along. You can come over your differences. And for new players, I would say try new things. If you find something you really like, that's great. I would store it while you're new, and then keep going out, keep trying new things, keep what works, and maybe take notes or something. We have an eval channel. I think that's a really great thing to have. Make sure you're taking notes of what's good and what's bad. Soldiers, what do you think?
Agreed. You guys already said.
Yeah, a man of few words, Soldiers.
For the first time.
Right.
and even less money in the pocket. But hey.
And just a more lighthearted question to end it. So, what's the story behind everybody's player tag? Starting just on my side with Distorted, since you're the top left for me.
I'm probably the worst to start with this because I made it a long time ago and I've forgotten. I like Tiger's though. Tiger has a pretty good background for his.
Oh, okay. I thought you were gonna talk about yours first.
Oh, I forgot.
How original.
Yeah, my name, I made it a long time ago when I was playing like back in PS3 days, but the name behind mine is it's kind of weird because it's really just 3 different sections that are also just combined. So the Tiger part came from my club soccer team, the Tigers, and the position that I played was forward, which is what we call striker. So that's also where it came out. And then the number 5 was just because my dad, when he grew up playing sports, he wore the number 5, and I thought I would carry over and take that number, and I still do to this day. And that's what I wear the number 5 for anything. And I just kind of mesh them together.
Soldiers, go
You
ahead.
want to take it? Yeah, I'll finish this off.
When I used to, when I was really little, like Wii days, play like a bunch of different games. Man. So my old gamer tag back then was like Soldier Boy. Like Soldier Boy as in like the rapper, but it was Soldier Boy. And then changed over to Xbox. My friend like made a little like Xbox clan that I joined. That's where the FG came from. And then I just took the old part of my name and slapped a Z on the end. That's about it.
So real quick before it gets any further, I gotta say thank you to Lumpy and Fitz on Entity. Because if it wasn't for them pulling me out of the rookie boot camp, which never got to the tournament stage, and just trusting me on their team, I wouldn't have been playing in competitive. So first off, I had to get that out there. Second off, on how I got to Rypick, I mean, throughout high school, my nickname was called RPick. So I mean, coming into gaming, RPick is pretty much just another version of Epic for everybody else. So you know, it's a runoff of my first and last name is how I end up getting to Rypick.
Yeah, for me, I chose VR Marksman. I had different names gaming growing up on Xbox and different things on PC, but nothing really stuck. And uh, about when I turned 21, 22, I started competing in 3-gun sports. So it'd be like shotgun, pistol, and rifle, and actually going out and competing and playing in matches. And so when I started VR, I was like, the games I want to play are the first-person shooter games because that's hand in hand with what I enjoy. So from there, I was like, well, I don't think Marksman's taken, and so let's be VR Marksman. Let's and it kind of just fits with my ideology and what I want to play in games. I want to be hit long shots, make close shots or quick shots, and kind of be that specialized marksman. But I think before moving on, we got 2 other guys on our team. We got Messino. I don't know if we talked much about him. His is I think is based off his name as well.
Yep, Mason and
Yep. And so that's where he came up with his, and I think it is a great name for him. And he's been essential to our team. I know he played through the finals with us, and he performed really well. On Subway, he had some concerns, should we swap him out? And we're like, dude, you're good. Just stay in it, work through it. So he's willing to take one for the team, and has a good heart in the game. And then we have Def Redux, which his name started out as Fed Smoker.
Yep.
And on a whim, he changed it. And then he tried to change it back, and it was taken like 2 days later. And so he changed it to Def Redux because it's like a mnemonic for Fed Smoker, or just mixing things up a little bit. And so now he's stuck with Def Redux, even though we all call him Fed.
That's such a Def story, I swear.
Yep. And for him, he's what we call our master of scrims. He's the one, kind of like the team liaison, working with other teams and scheduling scrims with us, kind of being our our point of contact for our team. Just because it's helped spread out the workload. And so he did a great job this season keeping us full, usually having 2 to 3 scrims a week. And so he'd manage our schedule, he'd manage teams, and then also do the lineups and handle all that. So my hat's off to him for putting in a lot of work on the weekly basis, just managing that part of it. Yeah, he was definitely a critical part of the team going through the season. And then into finals, he did a lot of the research, helping us out with going through casts and just documentation of that.
Yeah, the people who do a lot of the logistical heavy lifting are the ones that are sort of unsung heroes on every team, as you don't really get to see that in the game itself, but it's so important. It's the infrastructure of a winning team in many cases.
Yeah, exactly. That's why I want to give them a little shout out, because I know they're not here to talk about themselves, but I know we all couldn't have done it without them, having all 7 of us in this for the season.
Well, when you guys win your next championship, we can run another interview, and we can include them that time. All right, guys. Well, we've been going for just about 43 minutes now, and I appreciate you giving me the time. I don't have any more questions, so we'll stop it here. But you have it here, folks. Lots of fantastic advice for how to build a team into a championship caliber squad. As we saw in their second season, these guys went and won against the beginners. And if you're new to the Onward competitive scene, beginners were on their 6th potential championship if they were to win. So no small feat by these guys. So anyway, this is your old friend Theta signing off with the Raptors.